This video has been sponsored by Squarespace. 2025 has been kind of a weird year for me regarding games. There have been 7 games I've been looking forward to. 2 were amazing, 2 were enjoyable with some issues, and 2 left me completely disappointed. And then there's Fretless. Fretless is a musical indie game or GuitaRPG that's been in the works for the past 8 years. It originated as a project between a group of very talented friends who made it based around the online content of their friend, musician, and YouTuber Rob Scallon. Over time, the project got more serious and they ended up finding a publisher allowing them to make the creation of this game a full-time job. That's obviously a gross oversimplification of the story behind Fretless, and if you're interested in hearing more, the team made an incredible video about the development of the game that I'll be linking in the card and the description below. When I first heard about this game, I got more excited for a piece of media than I have been in a very long time. I'm a huge fan of Rob Scallon, RPGs, and music in general, so combining all of this into one pixelated bundle was like a dream come true. Now that the game is out, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about my playthrough. Right out the gate, Fretless's presentation is gorgeous. The game utilizes a lineless art style that looks wonderful, and the main menu showcases that really well. The pixel art environments are beautiful, and the animations are all really fluid and well made. We even get to see Rob, the main character of the game, playing the menu music on his guitar. I kinda wish he didn't start strumming until the music actually started, but it's still really cute. Upon pressing the Start New Game button, we're given a cutscene that radiates a lot of old-school Newgrounds animation energy. It depicts a rock star signing a contract with a record label run by a fairly menacing-looking man before seamlessly transitioning into a beautiful panning shot of Fretless's world. It ends by showing us Rob sitting in his room playing guitar. In present day, Rob sits in front of his TV watching an advertisement about Super Metal Records' Battle of the Bands, a music competition where the winner is signed to the record label and can make all their dreams come true. Excited by the opportunity, Rob yanks his acoustic off the wall and heads to sign himself up. The artwork in this game is just gorgeous. I mentioned how much I liked the lineless style on the main menu, but it shines even more through the actual gameplay. The characters and environments are so vibrant and aesthetically pleasing, while also remaining cohesive with the player models. Each unique area we explore fits the style while still being visually interesting. Everything in the world of Fretless is themed around music, from the wildlife surrounding Rob's home to the game sitting under his TV. Resident Evil 2 and Crash Cymbal Bandicamp are 2 of my personal favorites, all of which are compatible with his pick station too. The music puns are already coming full force, and they do not slow down for the entire rest of the game. It's amazing. Since it's an RPG, Fretless encourages you to explore, leaving collectibles and chests laying around, with the path leading to them being way less obvious. This encouraged me to run into a lot of suspicious-looking walls during my playthrough, which a lot of the time was the correct move. This first chest I found introduces the game's currency, golden guitar picks. Right next to his house, Rob runs into Dr. Strum, a local scientist who will be helping us out during the game. He works in Super Metal Records' research and development department, meaning he might have some insight about the Battle of the Bands. Strum is not pleased with Rob's decision to enter the competition, insisting that Super Metal Records is— oh my god, what are you? An angry-looking mushroom man jumps out of a nearby bush, attacking the two. Strum, after implicating his involvement with this creature by saying another one has gotten loose, tells Rob to grab his guitar. It's time to learn the combat system. There are 4 different instruments that you can choose from to protect yourself. We start with the acoustic guitar. Each action you can take during battle is called a riff, 6 of which appear on the bottom of the screen at any given moment. You can hover over them to get a reminder of what they do before placing them in your arrangement bar here at the top. You press shred, and animation will play and you'll use the ability. A yellow highlight will appear during the animation, and if you click your mouse while the highlight is active, it'll turn green and you'll deal extra damage. The highlight is always on beat with the music, making it super intuitive to click on time. The more you use each ability, the better your timing will get and the more damage you'll do overall. This highlight will appear during enemy attacks too, and if you press it in time, you'll block some of the incoming damage that the attack would have dealt. You can put up to 3 riffs at a time in your arrangement bar in any order that you want, and each one will play a sample that's unique to that specific riff. Shredding will play all 3 back to back to back, effectively allowing you to make your own additions to the background music by sampling over it. Not only do your attacks line up with the music, enemy attacks line up with the music. And considering the fact that all the enemies we encounter are music themed, the instruments they're related to will be used in the samples that play during these attacks. This means that every single song that plays during combat needs to be modularly designed to be compatible with every riff and every enemy attack in the entire game, so they can be overlaid and stay seamlessly on beat. This means that every single song that plays during combat needs to be modularly designed to be compatible with every riff and enemy attack in the entire game so they can be overlaid seamlessly. I can't even begin to imagine how much work that must have taken. They made a turn-based combat system that's not only a fun rhythm game, it allows you to make your own music. That's some of the most genius design I have ever heard of. It took me a little bit to get used to the timing and get into the rhythm, as you'll be able to see in the background, but as soon as I figured it out, this became easily one of the most satisfying to execute combat systems I have ever used. Rob defeats the mushroom, impressing Dr. Strum enough for him to propose a confidential agreement. If Rob stays quiet about the whole violent monster thing, Strum will sponsor his entry into the Battle of the Bands. First and foremost, Rob is going to need to learn some more advanced battle techniques, and Strum knows just the man for the job. He points Rob south, where supposedly some dude living in a shack will be able to help him out. Here we're given full freedom to explore the spawn area, Harmony Heights. There are tons of colorful characters to interact with around town, although most of them are salespeople who have yet to open their shops for the day. We can come back here later on to buy all kinds of stuff to help us on our journey. The one shop that appears to be open is the Rest Stop. Good pun. This nurse will heal us up for free if we don't want to use health potions, which is good for me because I have a tendency to hoard my items in RPGs. Rob heads south into Songwood Forest, where he defeats several more enemies on the way to the shack that Strum mentioned. It seems that the teacher we're supposed to be meeting with is a man named Wibblespoon. I love how his dialogue is written out. There is no questioning the accent that he's using. Wibblespoon is a master of instrument modification. By collecting different mods around the world, like this ceramic pickup he so generously gives away, you can use workstations to modify your instruments to get different abilities. There are tons to choose from, and plenty of different combinations for different builds. Experimenting with different mods is a really fun way to find a playstyle that works for you, and I would highly recommend playing around with as many as you can. Strum calls Rob, letting him know that his entry into the Battle of the Bands was successful, but he still needs to get all the way to the venue where the battle is taking place, and to do that, he's gonna need to get himself a boat. If he can make his way through Songwood Forest, he'll reach Dropdee Beach, where Strum is positive that Rob will find someone to help him out. The remaining unexplored areas in Songwood Forest are full of tons of enemies to fight and secrets to explore, which really helped me start to figure out the timing during the rhythm sections. We're introduced to these statues that are scattered throughout the world that will unlock more riffs to use on your instruments, which is insanely helpful. You can only have up to 16 riffs at your disposal at any time, so unlocking more forces you to start removing them from your deck. This, combined with the mods from earlier, are what allow you to fundamentally change your build, giving you a ridiculous amount of playstyle versatility. During my playthrough, I had two specific builds that I would use during different situations, which I'll go more in depth about as we unlock more instruments and encounter more enemies. Deep in the thicket of Songwood Forest, a gaggle of goons has set up their camp. They're sporting the Super Metal Records logo and start talking about their assignment, releasing the monsters that we've been battling. They don't know why they're supposed to be bringing monsters here, just that their boss, Rick Riffson, gave the order. Therefore, they have to follow it. Instead of continuing to eavesdrop to gather more information, Rob scampers up with his guitar and is attacked by Goon Gary. This enemy is on a whole other level compared to what we've faced before. Just look at his gorgeous Guitar Hero controller. But thankfully we've just unlocked the Crescendo Meter. The Crescendo Meter is a bar that will fill up each time you execute a successful QTE with yellow highlights. Once it fills up, you can use your Crescendo, a powerful ultimate attack unique to each instrument in the game. This means that the better your timing during the rhythm sections, the more often you can unleash your ult. This is the Crescendo for the acoustic. It's another completely unique version of a rhythm game mechanic, and it feels so good to execute. The crescendos get more difficult as you get different instruments, but all of them are incredibly fun to play through, even if you miss a few notes as they get more complex. Rob defeats the goon, gaining access to the remains of the group's camp, where a guitar pedal sits on a crate to the right. Guitar pedals are another really clever musical mechanic. Instead of having a skill tree, you have a pedal board in your inventory with enough room to fit 3 pedals of your choosing. By completing the main story and doing side quests, you can unlock more pedals and customize your board to fit your build. They even list how to get each pedal in the menu so you aren't just running around aimlessly. This first one increases your health by 25, which is a pedal that I kept equipped for the entire rest of the game. Having that buffer of 25 was shockingly useful. There's a note on the ground that gives us some insight into Rifson's plan. First of all, we get confirmation that the monsters were in fact created by Dr. Strum. Shocking, I know. Secondly, we learn that they were supposed to have been some kind of revenue stream for Super Metal Records, although the plan seems to have backfired for now. Despite this, Riften still thinks they can be of use. He's deployed the creatures in Songwood Forest to see how they fare against the local wildlife, although he doesn't give a reason why quite yet. Rob continues to explore the forest, eventually finding himself in a much darker section of woods, Dissonant Thicket. It would be cool to explore, but Strum shoots over a call asking Rob to come back and take a look at something he's developed: the bass, aka my instrument of choice for Fretless. Each instrument in the game has a unique passive effect that you can utilize to draw out its full potential. While our acoustic would deal double damage every 6th hit, the bass has a more complicated power, a power that I quickly realized could be taken advantage of to deal unreasonable amounts of damage in very short periods of time. When using the bass, you can utilize something called slap power. Taking hits and using certain riffs during battle will increase your slap meter. Each time your slap meter reaches 10 or more by the end of your turn, it will reset at the start of your next turn. The higher your slap meter, the more damage you deal, meaning you need to use your high damage attacks all at once before the meter resets. Just because your meter resets next turn after reaching 10 doesn't mean you shouldn't be reaching for the stars. The maximum theoretical level of slap is 99, and the closer you get to that during your turn, the more damage you do. At this point, all the shops in Harmony Heights have opened up, allowing you to purchase more mods, riffs, and potions. This is super helpful in Dissonant Thicket because the enemies are only getting tougher from here on out. The bass definitely has a playstyle that aligns the most with my preferences, but I also like it because of the sound. Here's what the acoustic battles sounded like compared to the bass battles. Both sound awesome, but my personal preference is the bass, and a new instrument means a new crescendo. Dissonant Thicket is a lot darker and moodier than Harmony Heights, and the creatures are a lot scarier. Instead of fighting musical fungi, we're pit against enemies like bats and spiders. This area even had a cover of Rain, Rob Scallon's most popular song, as its backing track, which was such a cool Easter egg. The majority of this area is about the same as the forest before it, just with new enemies, but one major difference is the addition of a secret boss fight. If you solve this simple puzzle to open this giant archway, you can find a pedal being guarded by a giant version of the normal spider enemy, the Ox Arachnid. This fight is super fun, and it was one of the first big challenges I encountered while still not having a set build to help me get past it. I was able to get this done first try, so it wasn't too difficult, but it was definitely a big indicator that I needed to rebuild my deck a bit as soon as I got some new riffs, because it was certainly not easy. The pedal that the boss was guarding charges 5 crescendo whenever you play 2 or more riffs with the same name in your arrangement, which has been pretty common for me so far, so I'll absolutely take it. To the north of Dissonant Thicket, we find Dropdee Overlook, which I assume will connect to Dropdee Beach. There's a rope to the left side of the overlook that can get tossed down, allowing for easier transport to and from Harmony Heights. The right side, however, contains our very first story boss, Super Metal Records Larry. This bearded baddie is blocking the path to Dropdee Beach, and outfitted with his Buster Keytar, he's not a foe to be taken lightly, but I came prepared. I started this fight with full crescendo. Looks like that is not gonna work out quite yet. Using your crescendo on bass increases your slap by quite a decent amount, which allowed me to get some more damage in, but this fight was still fairly difficult. Larry frequently inflicts you with the echo effect, which is basically just poison, and it makes things even harder. I think this is a fairly good time to talk about how awesome the unique animations for each instrument are. The bass utilizes the strings most heavily in its animations, with Rob using it as a bow and sometimes even a fishing rod. This boss introduces a brand new mechanic that I think adds a lot to the tougher fights. The bosses can use their own crescendos on you. It works exactly the same as a normal crescendo, but with the enemy initiating a unique animation and throwing a bunch of button prompts on the screen to press in order to reduce the damage. The one thing I would change about this mechanic's introduction would be the inclusion of a tutorial beforehand. The button prompts start appearing from the other side of the screen, which made me unsure if I was supposed to be following them, or if this was a visual choice to show you that your opponent is using the same mechanic as you in the same exact way. I pressed the buttons just because I was not about to take that risk during a boss fight, but I didn't learn that I was doing it properly until noticing a loading screen tooltip later on during my playthrough. Eventually Larry is defeated and the path to Dropdee Beach is clear to pass through. As Larry is crumpled on the floor in pain, Rob gets a call from Dr. Strum, whose voice Larry instantly recognizes. He demands to know how Rob knows Strum, revealing that the doctor was the one who created all of the monsters. While this isn't new information, it does finally force the doctor to admit that he hasn't been truthful. Before Strum can explain, Larry runs for the hills, dropping a pedal on the ground behind him that I would be using for the entire rest of the game, the Z-Boost pedal. When you attack a singular enemy, this pedal will deal 15% of that damage to all other enemies on the battlefield. If I can start getting more consistent high-power slap damage, that's going to destroy. As Rob moves past the boss arena, we get a cutscene showing Rifson standing before his lackeys and discussing the plans for the Battle of the Bands. A shadow-cloaked SMR Prophetmancer explains that the plan to bar any legitimate contestants from the Battle of the Bands is running smoothly. Rifson becomes extremely agitated upon learning that one of his top 3 has been defeated in Songwood Forest. To make up for it, the Prophetmancer is heading straight to Dropdee Beach to cut the problem off before things get out of hand. As Rob enters Dropdee Beach, he stumbles upon Dr. Strum gazing at the waves. He admits that he created the monsters, albeit unintentionally. Originally, the plan was for Super Metal Records to create a new, marketable multimedia franchise with cute and colorful creatures. Despite his best attempts, the monsters turned hostile, and Rifson decided to find a different use for them. Part of the reason that Strum sponsored Rob's entry into the Battle of the Bands was to see if he could convince Rifson to shut the project down, as a condition of victory. Strum has already resigned from the company, although thankfully this won't affect Rob's mission. He can still participate and put a stop to all of this. Rifson may have decided to use terrifying monsters and soul-binding contracts to monetize his record label, but there are much easier and more ethical ways to grow a business. One option is to build a professional website for your business using this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I've made many websites in the past, mainly for school, and I was always required to code them manually using languages like HTML and CSS. Here's a website I made in an attempt to show off some of my thumbnail art, and here's the code that makes it run. One look at this should tell you that I struggle with coding. Squarespace helped me go from making basic websites like that to a polished art portfolio like this in half of the time without having to use any coding. Squarespace's giant library of templates gives you all of the resources you need to get started with your first website. They have countless categories to choose from, giving you a starting point to make your dream website regardless of your level of experience. Whether you're making a website for a business, a hobby, or something entirely different, Squarespace's versatility and user-friendly design makes website building easy. I was able to display all my favorite thumbnails front and center, making them clickable to take you to a page with background informations and descriptions showing how I made each one. I was even able to further tie the design into my channel branding by adding in my scrolling background. If, unlike me, you're actually good at coding, you can even add CSS to your page to customize it further. There are endless possibilities. Squarespace allows you to make a website for anything from hosting videos to selling products to building and interacting with your community. If you want to make a professional website, Squarespace cannot be beat. Go to squarespace.com/benagain or click the link in the description to get a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your new website, use code BENAGAIN to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/benagain using code BENAGAIN. Despite his resignation, Strum still wants to help Rob out. Because of this, he's brought another new instrument to try out, the synthesizer. While the acoustic is a good all-around instrument and the bass specializes in dealing large amounts of damage and fewer attacks, the synthesizer focuses on dealing effects, or FX. There are tons of effects that can appear on the battlefield, doing anything from causing your opponents to take damage when they hit you, to making them more vulnerable to your attacks, to poisoning them, like in the first fight with Larry. These effects can go both ways, so it's important to understand their mechanics fully and control control what effects go to which people. With our new instrument unlocked, it's time to explore the beach and see if we can find any information on acquiring a ride to the festival. But first we gotta go beat up a few enemies to test out the synth. I really love that the synth is used like a skateboard in a lot of these attacks. It makes the animation so dynamic. The docks on Dropdee Beach are full of all kinds of cool stuff, from other competitors in the Battle of the Bands, to shops and upgrade statues, to Andrew freaking Huang, another musician and YouTuber whose work I adore. They even added in his comically large modular synth. To the left side of the docks, Rob locates a portmaster who's willing to let him hitch a ride to the festival. Unfortunately, this ship can't leave until visibility improves. Since the fog only set in once Rob arrived, it's most likely something unnatural. And if it's unnatural, we should be able to find the source and stop it. Rob heads off to a nearby volcano to see what he can do, as the portmaster already sent her crewmates up there to investigate. An elevator north takes him to Timbre Faults, quickly finding the ship's crew and learning what happened to them. As they went to investigate the volcano, they encountered several monsters and were forced to stop their investigation early. They suspect that this newfound infestation has something to do with the smog, and the peak of the volcano is the logical source for this. After doing some climbing, I happened to notice a rift statue accessible using a path behind a waterfall, so I headed over and grabbed it. Little did I know, this would be my gateway into finding the ultimate base build. That ability right in the middle there, Upright Tribute, is one of the most powerful riffs in the entire game when you use it properly. Its ability is simple. It doubles your slap. That in itself is decently helpful, but we can really start doing some damage when combining it with other abilities in a very specific order. There are two conditions for maximizing the potential of this strategy. Firstly, you'll need 2 Upright Tribute riffs and 1 Power Slap riff accessible at the bottom of the screen. While cycling through riffs, I like to use Boosted Cutoff to defend myself while simultaneously charging my Crescendo bar. Once the Crescendo bar is maxed and we have all 3 riffs, it's time to shine. First, I use Crescendo to deal a little bit of damage while greatly increasing my slap. Then I use Upright Tribute in the first and second slot on my arrangement bar, and Power Slap in the third. If my slap was at 23 after the Crescendo, it would get doubled to 46, then doubled again to 92. After that, Power Slap will multiply my slap by 5 and deal an equivalent amount of damage, 460 in this case, to the targeted enemy. By timing my clicks on the highlight correctly, this boosts the damage to 690. The best part? I still have the Z-Boost pedal active, so that 690 damage would partially transfer, dealing 103 damage to all other enemies on the battlefield. And that's before I upgrade these abilities. Later on, you can get Power Slap to multiply by 6, and Upright Tribute will add an extra 5 slap before doubling. This strategy, especially when fine-tuned, can one-shot bosses. After exploring a decent chunk of Timbre Faults, the only way forward is to take an elevator down to the camp of a man named Zolio. Zolio's a treasure hunter with some odd speech patterns and a missing speaker blaster. He claims that if we can help retrieve his speaker blaster so he can enter some nearby ruins, we're welcome to some of the treasure inside. Unfortunately, the blaster was stolen by a creature resembling a xylophone. Not these little baby ones popping out of the eggs, oh no, a fully grown one. As scary as that is, it's not as scary as this bass. With the speaker blaster in hand and the Xylamander defeated, Zolio is able to enter the ruins, and Rob is allowed to take anything he wants. Maybe this toaster, ooh, or this snare, or maybe even the Rob Scallon signature 8-string guitar. This guitar is not only a monster, it summons a literal monster. I didn't use this instrument a ton because it requires regularly dealing damage to yourself, so I kinda just used it to get the achievement for defeating yourself with an attack from an 8-string. It does look and sound incredible though, and as I described, you can use it to summon a demon to help you fight. It may not be my favorite playstyle, but it's definitely visually my favorite of the 4 available instruments. And come on, it's the Rob Scallon signature guitar, it just feels right. After unlocking another pathway to continue searching Timbre faults, we quickly stumbled upon the second of the 3 top dogs at Super Metal Records, Profitmancer. Upon spotting us, he doesn't even fight us himself, he summons a demon to do it for him and leaves. Thankfully, using the power of Slap, this is not a tough fight. Rob heads north, running into Profitmancer again and encountering his next challenge. Profitmancer erects a giant demonic glowing gate with 3 symbols indicating some kind of items that we need to bring back to unlock it. Each of these items is being guarded by a demon, meaning it's time to get fighting. The first fight is a total breeze, although each one gets progressively harder as the enemies will begin to summon replacement demons in their place upon defeat. With all 3 items in tow, the demonic gate is removed without issue. Profitmancer is impressed, but not enough to let Rob pass. He recommends retreating to the base of the volcano, as following him to the peak will bring nothing but pain. Profitmancer uses his abilities to summon a lava demon of Rick Rifson while hilariously watching from behind this amp. Lava Rifson is a tougher boss than I anticipated, as the 3 pillars surrounding the boss must be defeated before you're able to damage Rifson himself. Thankfully, the power of base and our 15% damage transfer can destroy all 3 at once. I literally maxed out the slap meter, it was awesome. Rifson will heal the pillars with time, so you need to deal as much damage as possible after taking them out before he can put them back up again. He even uses his own crescendo on you, which was super fun to counter. After defeating Lava Rifson, Profitmancer immediately retreats to report back to base. Rifson is becoming more concerned about Rob's interference, demanding that our 3rd and final opponent, the SMR Assassin, do whatever it takes to prevent Rob from making it to the festival grounds. With the skies clear, it's safe to head out to sea. Rob is given a ride as promised, and the fishing boat makes its way towards the festival. The assassin has been busy though, sabotaging the boat from the inside and forcing a crash into the icy tundra nearby. And yes, it is actually called the Tundra. The portmaster takes care of the crew while Rob sets off into the wilderness to look for a way out of this mess. Rob stumbles upon a tree with 3 translucent dangly bits and 3 accompanying slots for artifacts. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what to do here. Rob spots a squirrel carrying one of them and scampering into the woods, but catching it will require us to get past some enemies. There are monsters roaming the area just like the rest of the game, but one of them is a force to be reckoned with this time around. Most of the enemies can be pretty easily defeated using just about any playstyle, meaning you can find the option that works best for you and refine it until you're happy with it. That's one of my favorite parts of the game, but when you're fighting these bell snails, you have a lot less options. All attacks used against Bell Snail will only deal 1 damage per hit. This means that my strategy of building up hundreds of points of damage and letting it all loose at once will only deal 1 damage. Using your crescendo will only deal 1 damage. If you do not have a build that utilizes lots of damaging status effects or does lots of small damage in large quantities, you are going to be here for a while. This Bell Snail only has 50 health, but I just so happen to gravitate towards a build that is fully countered by it. This fight took me 10 minutes to get through, and an upsetting amount of health potions that I would have preferred to save. To deal with the Bell Snail, I changed the build on my acoustic, since it's the one that does the largest quantity of attacks. By choosing riffs that inflict echo, which poisons the enemy, and accompanying it with riffs that will upgrade the effects or deal multiple attacks with just 1 riff, I had a build that would work fairly effectively against these Bell Snails. The only thing I had to do was walk slowly through each area so that if I spot one of them, I would have time to swap out my gear so I wouldn't be wasting 10 minutes trying to brute force my way through one fight. For the most part, this build solved my problems except for one specific combination encounter early on in the area. Up until this point, I'd been fighting Bell Snails and these birds called Peck-Pecks individually. Peck-Pecks are a little tough to deal with since they can add an effects to themselves that will deal damage back to you each time you hit them while also simultaneously strengthening their own attacks. By having them on the board while also dealing with a Bell Snail, all 3 enemies are constantly dealing crazy amounts of damage back at you each time you attack. By using an acoustic build half built around doing a lot of individual attacks all at once, I was struggling hard. I ended up utilizing single attacks and upgrading my echo effects to get through the fight. In retrospect, I think using an effects-heavy instrument like the synth would have been ideal for this area, but I genuinely just didn't think of that at the time. The fact that there are multiple solutions to a problem like this is something that I always appreciate in turn-based combat. Sometimes it's fun to find a strategy that works and sticks to it, but I can also really appreciate the value in throwing out a combat puzzle that requires you to think in a new way. I just wish the enemy that started this puzzle didn't take 10 minutes to defeat during your first encounter. encounter. Starting at 10 health instead of 50 would have been warning enough that a strategy switch was in order for certain players. Or, alternatively, they could have given you the option to retreat so you could regroup and figure out what's going on. When I got into that fight, I was stuck going all the way through or waiting for it to kill me. With that figured out, the Tunedra becomes a lot more easy to explore. I got the first artifact back from the squirrel, found a second one buried in the ground after enlisting the help of a lost dog, and found the final one being guarded by some monsters. With all 3 artifacts replaced, a new path opens up to the Harper Beast Cave. A scientist outside warns Rob that a giant creature is in a large melting piece of ice, and it doesn't seem safe to go in. But what's the worst that could happen? An optional mini-boss? On the other side of the cave, Rob finds himself at base camp, where Strum calls him to check up on his progress, learning all about the sabotage and the crash. Conveniently, this camp is super close to a Super Metal Records communication relay that Rob can use to his advantage. SMR transports employees around quickly all the time. With an SOS signal, a helicopter would be here in no time to take Rob directly to the Battle of the Bands. Fittingly, Davey504, YouTube-based master, is one of the residents of this town, and he'll even let you play a trading game to get an extra pedal. But right now, we need to get to the festival, so Rob heads over to the communication relay and follows Strum's commands, accidentally destroying the machinery. The wave of sound is so loud that it shatters both the ice blocking the path forwards and the... oh no. Well, with that out of the way, Strum lets us know that not all hope is lost. He claims that we can hijack the communication frequency with a loud and resonant sound, like some ancient bells in the nearby cave system. That's easier said than done, with the caverns being full of SMR goons and even more monsters. After defeating them, Rob is able to ring the base camp bell, aligning the frequencies so Strum can use Rob's phone to broadcast a distress signal. The tech stuff they're talking about in this section has all sounded like complete nonsense to me, but hey, at least it appears to be working. A helicopter is on the way, although the SMR assassin inside is not too happy to see Rob as the pickup request. If crashing the boat didn't work, she'll have to end things for good. She hops out of the helicopter, preparing for another fight. I think that went well. The helicopter pilot hops out of the vehicle, allowing it to gently descend right in front of Rob, where Strum insists that he will be able to remotely guide the piloting process. Well, if they did it on Mythbusters, maybe they can do it here? After the helicopter lands, Strum calls Rob to remind him of his mission. Rob just needs to make sure that after he wins, he doesn't sign the soul-binding contract that comes alongside it. The venue where the Battle of the Bands is being hosted is plastered with all kinds of anti-Rob posters, indicating to the security team that he should not be allowed on the premises. This does not work, and Rob is literally guided to the stage for his debut battle. My personal theory for this level of ignorance is that the signs are figments of Rob's overactive imagination, because look, it's floating in front of his face! In all seriousness, this is just a minor layering issue, which is something that I've noticed maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the game. Sometimes an object that should be in the background is in front of Rob instead of behind him. It's not a huge issue, but it's definitely something I noticed. On stage, Rifson introduces the Battle of the Bands, being surprised to see Rob walk on stage as the first contestant. He attempts to calmly roll with the punches, introducing the opponents, Cyberfunk and Mr. Midi. The Battle of the Bands acts like a boss rush where we're stacked up against round after round of opponents with no breaks or opportunities to heal in between. This also means that you can save your riffs from round to round and plow through the weaker opponents while saving up specific attacks for the stronger ones. Each round of opponents has a specific tactic they use against you, which prevents you from being able to just barrel forwards. The first fight has Mr. Midi being invincible to all damage except stuff dealt by effects while Cyberfunk is still alive. So you either need to use an effects-based build or hard focus on Cyberfunk to get him off the board. I really liked all the contestant designs in this section of the game. It's fun to see what bands ended up entering the Battle of the Bands before we, pound them into dust. The final of the 3 bands in the first round is one that we actually encountered earlier in the game, with them being confident they could win the battle. Unfortunately, I'm still holding my base. With 1 round completed, Rifson makes sure that Rob won't be coming back for round 2. The security team is updated on the request to not let Rob inside, fully barring him from reaching the stage through conventional means. But we have Dr. Strum on our side. As an ex-SMR employee, he knows quite a few hidden routes throughout the place. There's a hidden hatch to a back entrance around the venue that SMR uses to quickly transport people. If Rob can find it, all he would need to do is sneak his way back on stage. A good amount of the initial crowd has dispersed, moving inside to see the main event, leaving more spaces open to explore. This gives us access to some more chests to look through.
Hey, chest right here. Gold strings, what do you do?
Oh my
My build is even more broken now. I haven't talked much about my base mods, and now that I've found the gold strings, now is the perfect time. My final mod build involves a dual blade pickup, gold strings, and gold tuners. The pickup allows me to charge 10 crescendo whenever my slap resets, and it adds 5 slap when using my crescendo. This allows me to charge up my crescendo faster and more frequently while also increasing the amount of damage that it deals. The gold strings will heal me at a level equal to my slap every time it resets. So during normal rounds, I'll heal around 10 to 20 points, but after my hyper-engineered high damage attacks, I'll be maxing it out at 99 recovered hit points. Finally, my gold tuners allow this effects on my chain to deal 100% more damage. Rob heads through the secret hatch, spotting Rifson talking to a henchman on a nearby bridge and making sure that his entire crew is looking for Rob. That is a lot of employees to worry about, more than we can take on all at once. That means that our only option is stealth. This underground area is full of these giant panels that require keycards to activate. If you use the correct colored keycard on them, then they'll open nearby doors of the same color. We don't have any of those quite yet, so we'll need to keep an eye out and try and steal some on the way in. This yellow card is completely unattended, but the others will be harder to get. Since this is a stealth section, a fairly clear vision cone is in front of each of the guards, letting you know where to dodge. Using this, you have to make your way through the unfamiliar winding halls of Super Metal Records while remaining out of sight during your search for the keycards. This isn't too difficult, but it's by no means a cakewalk. The guards have set walking patterns that oftentimes only have a small gap that's only open for a few seconds where you have to slip by, so even though it's usually clear where you need to go, it's still stressful to properly execute. Rob makes his way through the halls, getting his final purple keycard and bursting out on stage right when Rifson is making fun of him for running home with his tail between his legs. Bad timing. The second round of the battle is still definitely fun, but it's not as cool as the first. I liked how we got to go up against other contestants during round 1, but round 2 just has some SMR monsters that have been more engineered than usual. It's not that it's not cool, it's just not as cool. The same strategy as before works here, with Rob easily being able to take out 3 rounds of the enemies. But things don't stop there. A pissed off Rifson takes things up a notch by forcing us to face off against an enhanced SMR Larry. Encore Larry. This section of the fight is a total blast. Larry's background music goes incredibly hard and his attacks are super cool looking. He even summons boomboxes that'll explode if we don't deal with them in time. After once again defeating Larry, he has a moment of reflection. Maybe he's been fighting for the wrong side this entire time. Before he can continue his monologue, Rifson has him removed from the stage. He announces that Rob is the official winner of this year's Battle of the Bands, taking him back to the office where he'll officially sign him onto Super Metal Records. And sure enough, he's dead serious. Rifson actually hands us a soul-binding contract to join Super Metal Records. We've come all this way so we can convince Rifson to change his ways. But money is cool, so let's sign that contract and get rich and famous, baby! Rob refuses to sign the contract, upsetting Rifson for the final time. Now that he's seen the contract, Rifson can't let him leave. It's time for the final boss. Rifson's attacks are all based around money and contracts, and they constantly apply negative effects to us. Thankfully, my build allows me to overwrite that fairly quickly, but using another instrument, I would have been in some serious trouble. Rifson's first phase is fairly straightforward, with the biggest struggle being that each time you fail to block one of his attacks, he gains 10 shield points for a total of 50 each round. You need to be a diligent blocker during this fight. After defeating his first phase, Rifson starts using his modular office space to attack you. Each of these machines have different mechanics to work around, and more will spawn as you defeat the initial round. After taking them all out, Rifson's office implodes and the floor begins to rocket downwards. On the side, Rifson appears to be inside of a giant cable mech. You can't deal damage to him until all of the cables are gone, and each one has a different purpose, just like the machines in the office. With the cables dealt with, I made sure to max out my crescendo meter and leave my all-important 3 riffs for the final round. Rifson lays on the ground in a crumpled mess, agreeing to do whatever Rob asks of him. He's startled when the request ends up being stopping the monster creation program and nullifying the artist contracts, but he agrees to it in the end. We learn that Rifson originally just wanted to create a record label to spread the popularity of metal music, but he grew greedy with time. He now realizes how out of hand things truly got. He makes it clear that Rob will always be welcome to join Super Metal Records without a soul-binding contract, just like things used to be. Rifson presses a button on his phone, releasing a wave of sonic energy across the world. all of the monsters are turned back into the kind creatures they were originally supposed to be, and Super Metal Records is turned back into a record label, not a money farm. Fretless didn't live up to my expectations. It freaking exceeded them. I don't think I'm properly able to convey just how much I enjoyed it. The story was simple but fun, and it didn't need to be anything else. Fretless predominantly shines through its music-themed world and gameplay, and the story perfectly accents that by not overstepping any bounds or being too complex. The gameplay was perfect. It was literally perfect. It was a wonderful blend of turn-based combat, rhythm sections, deck building, and clever strategy. So much thought was clearly put into the design of this system, and it somehow seamlessly intertwines with all of the background music in the entire game, including boss music with featured artists. I loved this game so much that immediately upon finishing the main plot, I spent an extra hour getting every remaining achievement in the game. The game as a whole took me around 8.5 hours to complete 100%, and with a price of only $15, it's so worth picking up. Fretless radiates passion and care and creativity, and I'm blown away by how much I adored it. This is one of those games that I can see myself replaying at least once a year, and since it's Steam Deck compatible, I can bring that sucker with me everywhere I go. Please pick up a copy of Fretless for yourself. Hearing me talk about my playthrough could never hold up to the experience of actually playing the game, and this is one that I feel needs to be spread as far as possible because of how enjoyable it is. I hope to see you all again. Have a great rest of your day.